been saying that to you for the past month. If your father calls you up tonight and says, Alex, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to love you, how would you feel?
I would feel betrayed and like I'd been tricked into meeting a person who didn't exist.
Okay, so would I. Okay, now does that not tell you that free will, individuality, personality, soul is real?
No. There are religious studies.
All right.
Oh, that's
At Harvard University, at Yale University, is there a religion department?
It's religious studies.
Yeah. There's a religious studies program at Harvard and Yale. So what do you mean when you say a pursuit of the rational does not include discussion about God or Christ? What are you talking about?
Because the things that you say are uncritical of the actual ideology. They promote, but they aren't actually doing a service to those who want to know if it's real or not. You just say it's real, and we have to take your word for it. It's you were saying earlier in the address before you took questions. You said Jesus died on the cross, and we have this evidence that God is kind. But that's just a story. It's not evidence at all.
Sir, in my opening comments, I intentionally said, do not take it from me. Go back, study the source documents, in this case the Gospels, examine the source documents for yourself, and ask yourself, does the historical evidence point to Jesus being reliable or not? I also, in my opening comments, said, and if you're seriously considering other religions, then you better read the Quran, the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, the Avatar, study the Upanishads and the Vedas of Hinduism. In other words, be open-minded and study the different options.
My issue is with the veracity of all of those documents. They're very pretty, it's true, but they aren't historical documents.
So you don't think Muhammad was an historical person, born in 570, dying approximately 632 AD? You don't think that happened?
No, I do.
Well, why? Why do you think Muhammad really lived?
Listen.
I'm going
to avoid that question by saying that it doesn't matter if he was a historical person. It's simply that he was telling stories, and those stories. I was going to lead into this, but I didn't. I wanted to ask a different question first.
Okay, go ahead.
The question you reminded me of was about the actual teachings of Islam. You know, it's so difficult to separate when speaking to Muslims. It's so difficult to separate their ideology from their race. When you have criticisms of the ideology, it is so common to be accused of criticizing their race, which is not at all the case. I'm sure that you have these criticisms. There are over 100 verses in the Quran that promote violence against non-Muslims or against enemies of Islam. But and that's not just historical, as in the Bible, not history of violence against the Canaanites, etc. It's actually all Muslims ought to fight. Now, these are indefensible, but you can't attack them because of the ideology. I'll just have you respond to that first. May I?
Yeah. Which one do you want to respond to?
No, I don't want to ask the other question yet. Just respond to your take on violence in the Quran.
All right. Thanks for asking that. When I debate Muslim professors on university campuses, every Muslim professor that I have ever debated takes jihad, the idea of jihad, out of Islam and communicates that it's spiritual battle. I have never debated a Muslim professor who has insisted that jihad refers to physical violence. And every Muslim professor that I've debated on any campus is outraged over the actions of the Taliban, of ISIS. And the vast majority of my Muslim friends are non-violent people. So the way they handle the idea of jihad is they talk about it as a spiritual battle. They compare it to Ephesians chapter 6, where the Apostle Paul says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So they interpret the idea of jihad as a spiritual warfare. Second point.
Yes.
When you read the Quran, I still insist that my Muslim friends have a real problem with the use of force. Why? Because there are 3 different positions in the Quran that Muhammad takes regarding the use of force. When he first was in Mecca, he taught non-violence. He taught compassion for all people. He left Mecca, went to Medina, and while in Medina, he wrote, and it's in the Quran, that you were allowed to defend yourself if someone attacks you. When he goes from Medina back to Mecca, he writes a third thing that's in the Quran, which is kill the infidel. So my Muslim friends have a real challenge in the Quran because Muhammad says 3 different things about the use of force. First point is, do not use violence. Second point is, use force if you are attacked. In other words, defend yourselves. That is good. Third point, just towards the end of his life, when he had returned to Mecca and had to use the sword himself, he writes, kill the infidel. So the question for my thoughtful, intelligent Muslim friends is, how on earth do you handle the 3 different positions of Muhammad on the use of violence? It's a very difficult ethical issue for my Muslim friends.
I agree. And I think it can only be answered through application of their own human decency. Just as in Ephesians, you must choose to interpret it as a spiritual call to battle through your own human decency and respect for human dignity. And that I don't think comes from the Bible. I think that comes from a very natural instinct.
Right. But one of the differences between Jesus and Muhammad is Jesus came with a towel to wash people's feet as a servant.
I know you're...
Muhammad came and used the sword. So you do have a difference there. Now, in Romans 13, Paul writes, the government does not bear the sword in vain. And that is why followers of Christ are not necessarily pacifists, because they understand the reality of evil. And therefore, in obedience to a government, they will fight in a war not to keep gas prices low at the pump. No. But instead to stand against the slaughter of innocent people. But other followers of Christ are pacifists, like the Amish people in Pennsylvania. And they would take Jesus' teaching. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also and say, I'm sorry, no use of force ever is permissible. So you have that disagreement between some followers of Christ.
That's very true. And to me, that is an illustration that it doesn't have to do with your religiosity or if you are religious, the religion that you choose. It's something greater. It's something very human. Just to have that respect for human life, whether you choose to go out and protect the innocent or stay home and have nothing to do with it. But it's not something that you learn in church.
Okay. If what you say is true, that morality, right and wrong, are simply human, then how do you determine which human is right and which human is wrong? Adolf Hitler, Mother Teresa. Louis Farrakhan, Martin Luther King.
Who's Louis? Louis something.
Farrakhan? He's a black gentleman who believes in the use of force and at times violence.
Malcolm X.
Exactly, like Malcolm X.
Okay.
Correct. So you've got Malcolm X, you've got Dr. Martin Luther King. You have Gandhi, and then you have ISIS. All right? So they're all human beings. So how do you determine which human being is speaking the truth and which human being is out of touch with the truth?
Through rational discourse. And that's exactly what I've come here to say, is that if you've already taken a position on the nature of the universe, then you can't engage in rational discourse. You must already say, oh, I agree with this person. They are a follower of Christ like me.
Okay, but just remember what history shows us. History shows us that modern science began in the Christian West. Galileo, Copernicus,
This was after
Johann Kepler.
the Muslim Golden Age of Islam.
Fine. Muslim scientists are not atheists. They're theists. They believe in God. And the very talented Muslim scientists and apologists never ever would agree with you that morality is based simply on reason. Yes, reason is important, but reason is not a sufficient basis to understand a moral absolute. Sir, I can promise you I have a very good reason to steal. I want more comfort. I want to provide better toys for my kids. I want to feed more hungry people. So I'll be a Robin Hood-like figure, and I'll steal from Bill Gates and then feed the hungry. See, it's very easy to rationalize just about anything. Do you think that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were rational people? They were some of the most brilliant people of their day, sir. Just because you have reason doesn't mean that you have the ability to understand the difference between good and evil, right and wrong. I am convinced that the members of the Taliban and the members of ISIS are very rational people, very smart people. They're not stupid. But for some reason, they have chosen to use their reason in a very dangerous, evil way. So I really don't care if your name is Adolf Hitler and you're a Nazi German, or if you're part of ISIS and the Taliban. You're intelligent people. But unfortunately, you've made some rational mistakes and you've really violated your conscience, and you have reached a point where you can rationalize slaughtering people in the name of God, in the name of a flag or a country, in the name of your own self-interest, and that's tragic.
It is, and it points to the need for very careful, rational decision making. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm satisfied with your answer. I'd like to go to my second question.
Thank
I
you.
was thinking about this last night. This generation is one of the least religious in history. It's your generation was the least religious in history, and now ours is. And if you look around, and in fact I looked this up. You can do it too. But people between the ages of 18 and 24 are rather 36% of those people are not religiously affiliated. Does that concern you at all? This growing, accelerating trend of the nuns, as they're called, the religiously unaffiliated?
Great question. Yes, I am very concerned for your future. I am convinced that Jesus Christ loves you and that He died on a cross to forgive you and give you the gift of eternal life. And I pray that at some point in your life you'll put your faith in Him. And I pray the same thing for everyone of your generation, for everyone of my generation. So yes, I am concerned about the way people turn away from Christ for a myriad of different reasons. But, sir, here's what I'm very excited about.
Yes.
When Jesus Christ started His ministry, His public ministry, the center of faith in Christ was Israel, Palestine. After His death, the center moved up to Antioch. Then it moved down to northern Africa, to Alexandria, Egypt. Then it moved over to Eastern and Western Europe. Then it moved over to the United States. Now, today, where is the center of faith in Christ? It is not the United States. It is not Europe.
Definitely
it is
not
Africa,
Europe.
Asia, and South America. You see, that attracts me powerfully to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is not for one race, for one ethnic group. Jesus Christ is for the world. The center of Islam has always been Saudi Arabia. The center of Christianity has revolved around the world. And if trends continue as they are going today, the largest Christian country in the next 15 years will be China. Wow. Who would have ever thought that? But people are coming to faith in Christ in China like nowhere else. It's amazing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
What trend is going on? They have a government that actively suppresses religion. It's something that I have to struggle with very much, is the question of where is the correct policy? Do you ban all religious practice besides very small scale worship, as China does? Or do you allow everything like America does?
You have to struggle with that issue?
Oh yeah, I went to China for a semester, and it was very strange to see. They really are very cold in their treatment of
Yes,
religious
I'm
groups.
aware of that. But did I hear you correctly when you said you really have to struggle with how much religious freedom the United States should grant its citizens?
That's correct.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, I agree that we have an excellent document, the Constitution. I think the freedom of religion is very well enshrined in the Constitution. However, the freedom from religion is not well enshrined. In fact, we have so many laws, so many. We have laws passed in America in almost every state, perhaps every state, that endorse religion over secular values. We have tax dollars going to private religious schools. We have this monster debate against Planned Parenthood. Where's my Planned Parenthood peoples at? We have this attack on Planned Parenthood. Not simply Planned Parenthood, but they are the flagship of the whole movement towards safeguarding women's health. It's a coordinated attack by the religious right in America.
Really? Well, I'm not part of the religious right. And even if I was an agnostic or an atheist, the whole idea of slaughtering a fetus and then selling body parts is repugnant to any rational person, be you atheist, agnostic, theist, or whatever. And if Planned Parenthood is going to pursue a policy of supporting dismembering a fetus and then selling the different body parts to people, that is pretty scary, sir. And that has nothing to do with Jesus. It has everything to do with thinking rationally. That's a human life. Watch out.
Yes, it does. It's a very difficult decision that the mother must make.
No, it's not a difficult decision not to dismember a human body and sell body parts. That is not a difficult ethical decision. That's a crystal clear ethical decision, be you atheist, agnostic, theist, whatever. It's a human life. You're taking the body of a human being, dismembering it, tearing it apart, and selling body parts. I don't think you have to have a PhD in ethics to figure out that that's not very good. If someone tries to dismember you and sell your body parts, I'm not going to say, wow, I've got an ethical dilemma. Is this right or is this wrong? No, sir, it's evil. Flat out evil. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I'm sorry to hear you do, that you do say that.
All right. I'm sorry to hear you take the position you're taking. So I guess we're both sorry right now.
Right, but I don't want to get into a shouting match over it. That's for sure. It's been played out many times on network television. I don't think we're going to convince anybody today. So thank you.
Thank you very much for raising the issues you have.
If I would have said I was a hard atheist today, I would say I'm agnostic.
Really?
And
Why?
Just because I couldn't cite the authors or the works, but some of the stuff I was reading just about One was a critique of Richard Dawkins, in which he talked about like specific reasons why he thought that either God could be proved as real, which I don't really follow, or reasons that he thought that that there had to be something other than just physical process. And I guess that's where I came down to the point of whether I can't really say whether it's true or not. The idea of a soul beyond, if you know, there is the belief that we are just complex chemical reactions. There's the belief that we're that, but that it's tied to a soul, which is outside of the physical plane. And I guess I can't really make up my mind which view is correct. So, and I can't, I would if I saw, there's obviously no way, or there's no obvious way to show that a soul can't exist. And I can't say that I've necessarily found any evidence that one does. And that's why I'm undecided.
Okay? Okay, here's why I believe that Alex has a soul, that I have a soul. Because I'm convinced you have a free will. Why am I convinced of that? Because I'm convinced that tonight you can look back over the events of this day and you can critique yourself. You can say, when I did that, good, I want to repeat that tomorrow. When I did that, bad, I don't want to repeat that tomorrow. In other words, you have the ability of self-perception.
Right.
You can know yourself.
And why couldn't that be a complex chemical reaction itself?
Well, if it is, then it's not really you critiquing yourself, it's just you living out those chemical reactions.
Yeah.
In other words, I think determinism wins the day if there is no God. Because we're just biochemical reactions, highly complex, obviously we don't understand them all, but still, you reduce me to a chemical reaction. And I think that, would you see the movie Crash?
No, I actually haven't seen it.
All right, I want you to watch that movie, all right?
Okay.
Matt Dillon, right, plays this white racist police officer. He pulls his car over one night. He's given a sobriety test to the African-American driver. All of a sudden, the woman comes out of the car to protest, and he starts fondling her sexually. Then they leave, and his fellow police officer asks for a transfer. He was so grossed out by it. Next day, Matt Dillon comes upon a car that's overturned, gas is leaking, the flames are coming, but he knows the driver's in there. He crawls in there. The woman driver raises her head, looks Matt in the face. It's the woman he fondled the night before. She screams, "Get out of here." He says, "No, I got to save you." The flames are getting closer and closer to the gas. His fellow police officers are saying, "Get out of there, you're going to blow." He stays in there in spite of the fact that all of his instincts for survival and self-preservation, not to be hauled into court on sex charges by the woman, say, "Get out of there and let her blow and you can save your life." Instead of that, he does what he ought to do. He does what he should do. He cuts her out of the seatbelt, saves her life. See, I think that's a tremendous example of soul. Meaning by that, all my instincts are telling me, get out, save your hide. But there's this sense of oughtness, what I should do, and I put my life on the line to save this woman. I think it's a tremendous example of that free will, of that ability to love, ability to critique my instincts and say, shut up, instinct, I'm going to do what's right instead of what my self-preservation instinct drives me to do. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, you could say that that choice to do what you ought to do and not follow your primal instincts could be just a product of the way you were raised. This police officer was racist, but he's also raised in such a way that he valued human life, and maybe in an emergency situation recognized this is a human life that I could save. And you could say that's also just instinct in a sense. It's more complex than just pure survival. I need to do whatever is going to save me. But it's the way he was raised to say this is how you be a good person, this is how you do well in society, and just applied to that situation.
Yeah, but isn't there a part of you that judges your instincts? Isn't there a part of you that judges the way you were raised? Isn't there a part of you that judges the innate drives that you have?
But that judging was also taught to me. That value of, to say, how can I determine if this is good or bad, was taught to me.
Sure. And a lot of morality was taught to me.
Exactly.
But when I become an adult, I have an ability to critique what I was taught and to figure out, do I want to stay with this or do I want to break with it?
But did you critique it purely, like would you have critiqued it in vacuum if you had just been raised this way and then set with no outside material and say, can you judge for yourself whether you think those are good ideas or not? Or do you have to experience a worldview, experience other people, read other things, other ideas, in order to gain some perspective to judge how you're raised?
I think both. I think obviously that's part of the beauty of a liberal arts education.
Right.
You're being taught how to judge more carefully and how to critique more clearly.
But there's some way you could critique without those tools, maybe extremely slowly and not very well, but you could still do it.
Absolutely. Two white women, Sarah and Angelina Grimke, grew up on a plantation in South Carolina. Their environment taught them slavery is crucial to keeping the economic wheels churning smoothly. Sarah and Angelina Grimke leave their plantation in South Carolina, go north and join the abolitionist movement. I think it's really clear, everything their environment was telling them, slavery is very beneficial. They chose to follow their conscience instead of follow their environment.
Yeah, or follow their morals.
Yeah.
And those morals of, they're taught that, at least among white people, that you have to respect one another, you have to be polite to one another, and you have to give each other equal opportunity to have a good life. Maybe not amongst men and women at the time, but at least among other women, you have to treat them as equals. And so they think then, I can, maybe this shouldn't just apply to me. I don't think, maybe this should apply to our slaves as well. Maybe they should be given equal right. What makes us so different? And I don't necessarily think that thought process shows that they have soul. It just shows that they had enough of a mind to apply an idea they see here to something they see there and come to a conclusion.
Okay. All right, when I say soul, we better define it quickly. I mean free will, personality, individuality. So let me ask you, if she looks you in the face and says, Alex, I love you, what on earth is she saying? What does that mean?
It means that, well, it means a lot of things. It means that she respects me, that she wants to spend time with me and get to know me, and things along those lines.
Okay. Let's say that a young lady's been saying that to you for the past month. If your father calls you up tonight and says, Alex, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to love you, how would you feel?
I would feel betrayed and like I'd been tricked into meeting a person who didn't exist.
Okay, so would I. Okay, now does that not tell you that free will, individuality, personality, soul is real?
Yes,
that there's
certainly.
more to her than just a sex drive. There's more to her than just instinct. There's a free will that can choose to love Alex or can say, you're gross, get lost.
Right. Yeah, I mean, certainly, to some extent. I still, my whole point is still that I think that all those things can still arise from natural physical process.
Okay. So then it's just a physical process when she says, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah, a very complex set of brain chemistry that when she's around me, she feels good and she thinks I'm interesting and whatever. And so she says that to let me know that she feels those things.
Okay, now, if what you say is true, my experience contradicts that. Why? I am convinced that I could be a deadbeat dad. I'm convinced I could really love and provide for my children. My experience is I don't have to do either. Second point, I am convinced to the root of my being that I could be unfaithful to my wife and I could commit adultery. Or I can choose to be faithful and loyal to my wife.
Right.
Okay, that's life as I experience it. That's why I cannot buy the worldview that says we are just complex biochemical reactions. I can't buy the worldview that says determinism wins the day. Not only that, think about the legal system in the United States, right? A little dude comes around the corner of the building. Balding, little gray hair, big stack of books under his arms. I haul back and hit the guy as hard as I can. I'm hauled into a court of law. The judge says, Cliff, what are you doing? Why'd you hit the guy? I said, wait, Your Honor, when I was a little kid, my dad abused me. And my dad had a balding head and he had little gray hair. And every time he'd abuse me, Your Honor, he'd take up a big book and just cream me over the head with it. And this guy just so reminded me of my dad that due to the influences of my environment, I had to hit him. Fortunately, the legal system in the United States is not based on that worldview. Fortunately, the legal system in the United States is based on, no, Cliff, you have a soul, you have a free will, and guess what, Cliff? You're responsible for smacking that professor. I'm sorry that your father abused you, but you still have a free will, and we're going to put you into jail for smacking that professor.
Yeah, but by turning the same coin, you could say that, sure, we have people who make bad choices in this country, and the way we're going to change that is through a legal system. It's not necessarily we're saying they had a free will that wasn't natural process, and that they just chose to do that. We're saying that because their environment raised to do that, we need to put them in a different environment where they'll be taught not to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And through physical process, then people, at least in theory, become better people through the system.
Yeah. My experience as a parent is that my children have a free will, meaning by that they got the same mom and dad, they got the same environment, they go to the same schools, but man, they are radically different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm convinced, because of that kind of evidence, that indeed there is a soul, a personality that we have.
Yeah, but couldn't that be attributed to genetics?
Yep, you can always reduce anything, right?
Right.
You can always reduce things.
Right.
But Alex, my experience in life is that's very dangerous. Why? Because a key part of your life is going to be standing in wonder that she really loves you and that she wants to be faithful to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you reduce her love for you, if you reduce her faithfulness to you as being, well, it's simply a biochemical reaction, you're going to miss a big part of life.
See, I'm convinced. I don't think that's true. I think you can know that it's that way. You can know that all of this came about from the natural process, from the Big Bang. Billions of years later, we have this. And at the same time, you can say it's still beautiful. I can still appreciate it. I can still enjoy it to the fullest extent as any human being, even though knowing that at the atomic level it goes on in this way.
Are you being honest with yourself?
I think so. I think the natural process is beautiful, and when it's extremely complex, it's all the more beautiful. And I am honest with that. That's why I went in to study physics in the first place.
Orgasm is orgasm. Why on earth it's got to be with one woman? Because you're loyal to her? Because you love her? If that is just a physical chemical process, then why not have orgasm with many different women?
Because it would be a negative chemical process for me to see her hurt if she ever found out about it.
So what happens if she says to you it's fine?
Well, for certain people, that works for them, and I don't really know if I have a basis to judge them. I haven't thought about it very hard, but I don't know if I do or not. For me personally, if she's the kind of woman who's okay with that, then she's not the one I would have fallen in love with in the first place, because I'm not okay with that kind of relationship.
Why?
Because, I don't know specifically for me, it's partially the way I was raised, probably, just partially from the way I was raised and my genetics, my personality today, that if I was in if I could try to have that intimate relationship with two people at the same time, I just, I haven't tried it, but I feel like I'd be really uncomfortable with it.
Okay, now I would guess that the reason you feel uncomfortable with it is because you've had some experiences that are evidence that indeed there is more to that relationship with that woman than just hooking up. Mm-hmm. That you really are two individuals with a free will, and you can choose to be loyal to each other, but you don't have to be loyal to each other. I don't care what your environment's taught you. Mm-hmm. You can violate your environment. I mean, isn't that a big part of the whole university experience, the whole college experience, right?
Right.
We grew up in a certain environment. Now we're here. Whoopee-doo. Let it rip.
Right.
Right?
But isn't that the environment here?
Yeah.
That suddenly the constraints are removed.
Yeah.
So,
And isn't it absolutely fascinating to watch different people make free choices to respond differently to the environment that's here?
yeah. Or they make, they go with the choices that they think typical of college students, and they go through those, and they decide, I liked this one, I didn't like this one, I'm going to stick with this one, that sort of thing. And then they end up as a certain kind of person based on those experiences.
All right. Well, now, Jesus Christ communicates, Alex, I love you. Respond to my love. Now, I would argue that that's free will involved here. Romeo says to Juliet, Juliet, I love you. Would you marry me? Juliet says, talk to me tomorrow. Tomorrow. Romeo says, Juliet, I love you. Would you marry me? Juliet says, tomorrow. Talk to me then. If that pattern continues, Romeo and Juliet will never be married. So love doesn't coerce, it doesn't manipulate, but it reaches, it initiates, and then it waits for a response. Jesus Christ says, Alex, I love you. I died on a cross to forgive you and to give you eternal life. Now, will you respond to me? And I would argue you don't have to respond or not respond.
Right.
You've got to choose.
So I feel like you can, at least you can make the argument that that choice still comes as a byproduct of the way you're raised and your initial genetics, and that everything else, that the person you were at that point would have made this decision given that knowledge. A different person might have made a different decision, or you might have made a different decision at a different time, but who you are at a specific instance, given some new knowledge, will respond to it in a certain way.
Well, it's been an honor talking with you, man.
Certainly.
Thank you so much, Alex.